The Woof of War, from Brennu-Njáls saga, or the story of Burnt Njál, translation by George W. Descent, read for LibriVox.org by Hatton43, blog de la quinzaine.wordpress.com. See, warp is stretched, for warriors fall. Lo, weft in loom, 'tis wet with blood. Now fight for fending, neath friends' swift fingers our grey woof waxeth, with war's alarms, our warp blood red, our weft coarse blue. This woof is why woven with entrails of men, this warp is hard weighted with heads of the slain. Spears blood besprinkled for spindles we use, our loom iron bound and arrows our reels. With swords for our shuttles this war woof we work, so weave we, weird sisters, our war-winning woof. Now war-winner walketh to weave in her turn, now sword-singer steppeth, now swift-stroke, now storm. When they speed the shuttle, how spearheads shall flash, shields crash, and helm now arrow, on hardness bite hard. Wind we, wind swiftly our war-winning woof, woof erst for King Youthful, foredoomed as his own. Forth now we will ride, then through the ranks rushing, be busy where friends, blows blithe give and take. Wind we, wind swiftly our war-winning woof, after that let us steadfastly stand by the brave king. Then men shall mark mournful their shields red with gore, how sword-stroke and spear-thrust stood stout by the prince. Wind we, wind swiftly our war-winning woof, when sword-bearing rovers to banners rush on. Mind, maidens, we spare not one life in the fray, we course-choosing sisters have charge of the slain. Now new-coming nations that island shall rule, who on outlying headlands abode ere the fight. I say that King Mighty to death now is done, now low before spear-point that earl bows his head. Soon over all Erseman sharp sorrow shall fall, that woe to those warriors shall wane nevermore. Our woof now is woven, now battlefield waste, o'er land and o'er water war tidings shall leap. Now surely 'tis gruesome to gaze all around, when blood-red through heaven drives cloud-rack o'erhead. Ere soon shall be deep-hued with dying men's blood, when this our spadem comes speedy to pass. So cheerily chant we, charms for the young king, come maidens lift loudly his war-winning lay. Let him who now listens learn well with his ears, and gladden brave swordsmen with burst of war's soul. Now mount we our horses, now bear we our brands, now haste we hard maidens, hence far, far away. End of recording. This poem is in the public domain.
A College Breakfast Party by George Eliot, read for LibriVox by Josh Mitteldorf. Young Hamlet, not the hesitating Dane, but one named after him, who lately strove for honours at our English Wittenberg, blonde, metaphysical and sensuous, questioning all things, and yet half convinced credulity were better, held inert twixt fascinations of all opposites, and half suspecting that the mightiest soul, perhaps his own, was union of extremes, having no choice but choice of everything, as drinking deep today of love of wine, tomorrow half a Brahmin, scorning life as mere illusion, yearning for that true which has no qualities. Another day finding the fount of grace in sacraments, and purest reflex of the light divine in gem-bossed pyx and broidered chasuble, resolved to wear no stockings, and to fast with arms extended, waiting ecstasy. But getting cramps instead, and needing change, a would-be pagan next. Young Hamlet sat a guest with 5 of somewhat riper age at breakfast with Horatio, a friend with few opinions but a faithful heart, quick to detect the fibrous, spreading roots of character that feed men's theories, yet cloaking weakness with charity and ready in all service save rebuke. With ebb of breakfast and the cider cup came high debate. The others seated there were Osric, spinner of fine sentences, a delicate insect creeping over life, feeding on molecules of floral breath, and weaving gossamer to trap the sun. Laertes, ardent, rash, and radical, discursive, Rosencrantz, grave, Guildenstern, and he for whom the social meal was made, the polished priest, a tolerant listener, disposed to give a hearing to the lost, and breakfast with them ere they went below. From Alpine metaphysic glaciers first the talk sprang copious, the themes were old, but so is human breath, so infant eyes, the daily nurslings of creative light. Small words held mighty meanings. Matter, force, self, not self, being, seeming, space and time. Plebeian toilers on the dusty road of daily traffic turned to genii, and cloudy giants darkening sun and moon. Creation was reversed in human talk. None said, "Let darkness be," but darkness was, and in it weltered with Teutonic ease an argumentative Leviathan, blowing cascades from out his element, the thunderous Rosencrantz, till "Truce, I beg," said Osric, with nice accent. "I abhor that battling of the ghosts, that strife of terms for utmost lack of colour, form, and breath, that tasteless squabbling called philosophy, as if a blue-winged butterfly afloat for just 3 days above the Italian fields, instead of sipping at the heart of flowers, poising in sunshine, fluttering toward its bride, should fast and speculate, considering what were if it were not, or what now is, instead of that which seems to be itself. Its deepest wisdom surely were to be a sipping, marrying, blue-winged butterfly, since utmost speculation on itself were but a 3 days' living of worst sort, a bruising struggle, all within the bounds of butterfly existence. "I protest," burst in Laertes, "against arguments that start with calling me a butterfly, a bubble, spark, or other metaphor which carries your conclusions as a phrase in quibbling law will carry property. Put a thin sucker from my human lips, fed at a mother's breast, who now needs food that I will earn for her. Put bubbles blown from frothy thinking, for the joy, the love, the wants, the pity, and the fellowship, the ocean's deep, I might say, were I bent on bandying metaphors, that make a man. Why, rhetoric brings within your easy reach conclusions worthy of a butterfly. The universe I hold is no charade, no acted pun unriddled by a word, nor pain, a decimal diminishing with hocus-pocus of a dot or naught. For those who know it, pain is solely pain, not any letters of the alphabet wrought syllogistically pattern-wise, nor any cluster of fine images, nor any missing of their figured dance by blundering molecules. Analysis may show you the right physic for the ill, teaching the molecules to find their dance, but spare me your analogies that hold such insights as the figure of a crow and bar of music put to signify a crowbar. Said the priest, "There I agree. Would add that sacramental grace is grace, which to be known must first be felt, with all the strengthening influxes that come by a prayer. I note this passingly, would not delay the conversation's tenor, save to hint that, taking stand with Rosencrantz, one sees final equivalents of all we name our good and ill, their difference meanwhile being inborn prejudice that plumps you down an ego, brings a weight into your scale, forcing a standard. That resistless weight, obstinate, irremovable by thought, persisting through disproof, an ache, a need that spaceless stays where sharp analysis has shown a plenum filled without it. What if this, to use your phrase, were just that being, not looking solely, grasping from the dark, weighing the difference, you call ego? This gives you persistence, regulates the flux with strict relation rooted in the all. Who is he of your late philosophers takes the true name of being to be will? Nay, the Church objects not, is content. Reason has its utmost negative. Physic and metaphysic meet in the inane, and backward shrink to intense prejudice, making their absolute and homogene a loaded relative, a choice to be whatever is supposed, what is not. The Church demands no more, has standing room and basis for her doctrine, this no more. That the strong bias which we name the soul, though fed and clad by dissoluble waves, has antecedent quality, and rules by veto or consent the strife of thought, making arbitrament that we call faith. Here was a brief silence, till young Hamlet spoke. I crave direction, Father, how to know the sign of that imperative whose right to sway my act in face of thronging doubts were an oracular gem in price beyond Urim or Thummim lost to Israel. That bias of the soul, that conquering die loaded with golden emphasis of will, how find it where resolve, once made, becomes the rash exclusion of an opposite, which draws the stronger as I turn aloof? I think I hear a bias in your words, the priest said mildly, that strong natural bent which we call hunger. What more positive than appetite, of spirit or of flesh, I care not. Sense of need, or truer phrase. You hunger for authoritative right, and yet discern no differences of tone, no weight of rod that marks imperial rule. Laertes granting, I will put your case in analogic form. The doctors hold hunger which gives no relish, save a caprice, that tasting venison fancies mellow pears, a symptom of disorder, and prescribe strict discipline. Were I a physician, here I would prescribe that exercise of soul which lies in full obedience. You ask, obedience to what? The answer lies within the word itself, for how obey what has no rule, asserts no absolute claim? Take inclination, taste. Why, that is you, no rule above you. Science, reasoning on nature's order, they exist and move solely by disputation, hold no pledge of final consequence, but push the swing where Epicurus and the Stoics sit in endless seesaw. One authority, and only one, says simply this: obey. Place yourself in that current, test it so, of spiritual order, where at least lies promise of a high sense communion, a head informing members, life that breathes with gift of forces over and above the plus of arithmetic interchange. The Church too has a body, you object, can be dissected, put beneath the lens and shown the merest continuity of all existence, else beneath the sun. I grant you, but the lens will not disprove a presence which eludes it. Take your wit, your highest passion, widest reaching thought, show their conditions, if you will or can, but though you saw the final atom dance, making each molecule that stands for sign of love being present, where is still your love? How measure that? How certify its weight? And so I say, the body of the Church carries a presence, promises and gifts, never disproved, whose argument is found in lasting failure of the search elsewhere for what it holds to satisfy man's needs. But I grow lengthy. My excuse must be your question, Hamlet, which has probed right through to the pith of our belief, and I have robbed myself of pleasure as a listener. 'Tis noon, I see, and my appointment stands for 12:30 with Voltimand. Goodbye. Brief parting, brief regret, sincere, but quenched in fumes of best Havana, which consoles for lack of other certitude. Then said, mildly sarcastic, quiet Guildenstern, I marvel how the father gave new charm to weak conclusions. I was half convinced the poorest reasoner made the finest man, and held his logic lovelier for its limp. I fain would hear, said Hamlet, how you find a stronger footing than the father gave, how base your self-resistance save on faith in some invisible order, higher right than changing impulse. What does reason bid? To take a fullest rationality, what offers best solution? So, the Church. Science, detecting hydrogen aflame outside our firmament, leaves mystery whole and untouched beyond. Nay, in our blood and in the potent atoms of each germ, the secret lives, envelops, penetrates whatever sense perceives or thought divines. Science, whose soul is explanation, halts with hostile front at mystery. The Church takes mystery as her empire, brings its wealth of possibility to fill the void twixt contradictions, warrants so a faith-defying sense and all its ruthless train of arrogant therefores. Science with her lens dissolves the forms that made the other half of all our love, which thenceforth, widowed, lives to gaze with maniac stare at what is not. The Church explains not, governs, feeds resolve by vision fraught with heart experience and human yearning. Ay, said Guildenstern, with friendly nod, the father I can see has caught you up in his air chariot. His thought takes rainbow bridges out of reach by solid obstacles, evaporates the coarse and common into subtleties, insists that what is real in the Church is something out of evidence, and begs, just in parenthesis, you'll never mind that stares you in the face and bruises you. Why, by his method I could justify each superstition and each tyranny that ever rode upon the back of man, pretending fitness for his sole defense against life's evil. How can aught subsist that holds no theory of gain or good? Despots with terror in their red right hand must argue good to helpers and themselves, must let submission hold a core of gain to make their slaves choose life. Their theory, abstracting inconvenience of racks, whiplashes, dragonades, and all things coarse inherent in the fact or concrete mass, presents the pure idea, utmost good secured by order, only to be found in strict subordination, hierarchy of forces where by nature's law the strong has rightful empire, ruler of weak, proved mere disillusion. What can you object? The Inquisition, if you turn away from narrow notice how the scent of gold has guided sense of damning heresy, the Inquisition is sublime, is love, hindering the spread of poison in men's souls. The flames are nothing, only smaller pain to hinder greater, or the pain of one to save the many, such as throbs at heart of every system born into this world. So if the Church, as high communion of head with members, found of spirit force beyond the calculus, and carrying proof in her sole power to satisfy men's need, that seems ideal truth as clear as lines that, necessary though invisible, trace the balance of the planets and the sun, until I find a hitch in that last claim. To satisfy men's need? Sir, that depends. We settle first the measure of man's need before we grant capacity to fill. John, James, or Thomas you may satisfy, but since you choose ideals, I demand your Church shall satisfy ideal man, his utmost reason, his utmost love. And say these rest a-hungered, find no scheme content them both, but hold the world accursed, a Calvary where reason mocks at love, and love, forsaken, sends out orphan cries hopeless of answer. Still, the soul remains larger, diviner than your halfway Church, which racks your reason into false consent and soothes your love with sops of selfishness. There I am with you, cried Laertes. What to me are any dictates, though they came with thunders from the mount, if still within I see a higher right, a higher good, compelling love and worship? Though the earth held force electric to discern and kill each thinking rebel, what is martyrdom but death-defying utterance of belief, which, being mine, remains my truth supreme, though solitary as the throb of pain lying outside the pulses of the world? Obedience is good, aye, but to what, and for what ends? For say that I rebel against your rule as devilish, or as rule of thunder-guiding powers that deny man's highest benefit. Rebellion then were strict obedience to another rule, which bids me flout your thunder. Lo you now, said Osric delicately, how you come, Laertes mine, with all your warring zeal, as Python slayer of the present age, cleansing all social swamps by darting rays of dubious doctrine, hot with energy of private judgment and disgust for doubt, to state my thesis, which you most abhor when sung in Daphne notes beneath the pines to gentle rush of waters. Your belief, in essence, what is it but simply taste? I urge with you exemption from all claims that come from other than my proper will, as ultimate within to balance yours. A solid meeting you, excluding you, till you show fuller force by entering my spiritual space and crushing me to a subordinate complement of you. Such ultimate must stand alike for all. Preach your crusade, then. All will join who like the hurly-burly of aggressive creeds. Still, your unpleasant ought, your itch to choose what grates upon the sense, is simply taste. Differs, I think, from mine, permit the word, discussion forces it, in being bad. The tone was too polite to breed offence, showing a tolerance of what was bad becoming courtiers. Louder Rosencrantz took up the ball with rougher movement, wont to show contempt for doting reasoners who hugged some reasons with a preference, as warm Laertes did. He gave 5 puffs, intolerantly skeptical, then said, Your human good, which you would make supreme, how do you know it? Has it shown its face in adamantine type with features clear as this republic or that monarchy, as federal grouping or municipal, equality or finely shaded lines of social difference, ecstatic whirl and draught intense of passionate joy and pain, or sober self-control that starves its youth and lives to wonder what the world calls joy? Is it in sympathy that shares men's pangs, or in cool brains that can explain them well? Is it in labor, or in laziness, in training for the tug of rivalry to be admired, or in the admiring soul? In risk, or in certitude, in battling rage and hardy challenges of Protean luck, or in a sleek and rural apathy, full-fed with sameness? Pray define your good beyond rejection by majority. Next, how it may subsist without the ill which seems its only outline. Show a world of pleasure not resisted, or a world of pressure equalized, yet various in action formative, for that will serve as illustration of your human good, which at its perfecting, your goal of hope, will not be straight extinct, or fall to sleep in the deep bosom of the unchangeable. What will you work for then, and call it good with full and certain vision, good for aught save partial ends which happen to be yours? How will you get your stringency to bind thought or desire in demonstrated tracks which are but waves within a balanced whole? Is relative the magic word that turns your flux mercurial of good to gold? Why, that analysis at which you rage as antisocial force that sweeps you down the world in one cascade of molecules is brother relative, and grins at you like any convict whom you thought to send outside society, till this enlarged and meant New England and Australia too. The absolute is your shadow, and the space which you say might be real were you milled to curves pollicular, the thinnest thin, equation of no thickness, is still you. Abstracting all that makes him clubbable, Horatio interposed. But Rosencrantz, deaf as the angry turkey-cock whose ears are plugged by swollen tissues when he scolds at men's pretensions, "Pooh! Your relative shuts you in, hopeless with your progeny as in a hunger tower. Your social good, like other deities by turn supreme, is transient reflex of a prejudice, anthology of causes and effects, to suit the mood of fanatics who lead the mood of tribes or nations. I admit, if you could show a sword, nay, chance of sword, hanging conspicuous to their inward eyes with edge so constant threatening as to sway all greed and lust by terror, and a law, clear writ, and proven, as the law supreme which that dread sword enforces, then your right, duty, or social good, were at once brought to common measure with a potent law, would dip the scale, would put unchanging marks of wisdom or of folly on each deed, and warrant exhortation. Until then, where is your standard or criterion? What always, everywhere, by all men? Why, that were but custom, and your system needs ideals never yet incorporate, the imminent doom of custom. Can you find appeal beyond the sentience in each man? Frighten the blind with scarecrows? Raise an awe of things unseen where appetite commands chambers of imagery in the soul at all its avenues? You chant your hymn to evolution. On your altar lay a sacred egg called progress. Have you proved a best unique, where all is relative and where each change is loss as well as gain? The age of healthy saurians, well supplied with heat and prey, will balance well enough a human age where maladies are strong and pleasures feeble, wealth a monster gorged mid hungry populations, intellect aproned in laboratories, bent on proof that this is that, and both are good for naught save feeding error through a weary life, while art and poesy struggle like poor ghosts to hinder cockcrows and the dreadful light lurking in darkness and the charnel house, or like two stalwart greybeards, imbecile with limbs still active, playing at belief that hunt in the slipper football, hide and seek, or sweetly merry, donning pinafores and lisping emulously in their speech. O human race, is this then all thy gain? Working at disproof, playing at belief, debate on causes, distaste of effects, power to transmute all elements, and lack of any power to sway the fatal skill and make thy lot aught else than rigid doom. The saurians were better. Guildenstern, pass me the taper. Still the human curse has mitigation in the best cigars. Then swift Laertes, not without a glare of leonine wrath. I thank thee for that word. That one confession, were I Socrates, should force you onward till you ran your head at your own image, flatly gave the lie to all your blasphemy of that human good which bred and nourished you to sit at ease and learnedly deny it. Say the world groans ever with the pangs of doubtful births. Say life's a poor donation at best, wisdom a yearning after nothingness, nature's great vision and the thrill supreme of thought-fed passions but a weary play. I argue not against you. Who can prove wit who be witty, when with deeper ground dullness, intuitive, declares wit dull? If life is worthless to you, why, it is. You only know how little love you feel to give your fellowship, how little force responsive to the quality of things. Then end your life, throw off the unsought yoke. If not, if you remain to taste cigars, choose racy diction, perorate at large with tacit scorn of meaner men who win no wreath or tripos, then admit at least a possible better in the seed of earth. Acknowledge debt to that laborious life which, sifting evermore the mingled seeds, testing the possible with patient skill, and daring ill in presence of a good for futures to inherit. Make your lot one you would choose rather than end it. Nay, rather than, say, some 20 million lots of fellow Britons, toiling all to make that nation, that community, whereon you feed and thrive and talk philosophy. I am no optimist whose faith must hang on hard pretense that pain is beautiful, and agony explained for men at ease by virtue's exercise and pitying it. But this I hold, that he who takes one gift made for him by the hopeful work of man, who tastes sweet bread, walks where he will unarmed, his shield and warrant the invisible law, who owns a hearth and household charities, who clothes his body and his sentient soul with skill and thoughts of men, and yet denies a human good worth toiling for, is cursed with worse negation than the poet feigned in Mephistopheles. The devil spins his wire-drawn argument against all good with sense of brimstone as his private lot, and never drew a solace from this earth. Laertes, fuming, paused, and Guildenstern took up with cooler skill the fusillade. I meet your deadliest challenge, Rosencrantz. Where get, you say, a binding law, a rule enforced by sanction, an ideal throned with thunder in its hand? I answer, there, whence every faith and rule has drawn its force, since human consciousness, awaking, owned an outward whose unconquerable sway resisted first and then subdued desire by pressure of the dire impossible, urging to possible ends the active soul and shaping so its terror and its love. Why, you have said it, threats and promises depend on each man's sentience for their force. All sacred rules, imagined or revealed, can have no form or potency apart from the percipient and emotive mind. God, duty, love, submission, fellowship, must first be framed in man, as music is, before they live outside him as a law. And still they grow and shape themselves anew, with fuller concentration in their life of inward and of outward energies, blending to make the last result called man, which means not this or that philosopher looking through beauty into blankness, not the swindler who has sent his fruitful lie by the last telegram. It means the tide of reciprocal needs, toil, trust, and love, the surging multitude of human claims which make a presence not to be put by, above the horizon of the general soul. Is inward reason shrunk to subtleties, and inward wisdom pining, passion starved? The outward reason has the world in store, regenerates passion with the stress of want, regenerates knowledge with discovery, shows sly rapacious self a blunderer, widens dependence, knits the social whole in sensible relation more defined. Do boards and dirty-handed millionaires govern the planetary system, sway the pressure of the universe, decide that man henceforth shall retrogress to ape, emptied of every sympathetic thrill the all has wrought in him? Dam up henceforth the flood of human claims as private force to turn their wheels and make a private hell for fish-pond to their mercantile domain? What are they but a parasitic growth on the vast real and ideal world of man and nature blent in one divine? Why, taking your closing dirge, say evil grows and good is dwindling, science mere decay, mere dissolution of ideal wholes which through the ages past alone have made the earth and firmament of human faith. Say the small ark of being we call man is near its mergence, what seems growing life, naught but a hurrying change toward lower types, the ready rankness of degeneracy. Well, they who mourn for the world's dying good may take their common sorrows for a rock, on it erect religion and a church, a worship, rites, and passionate piety, the worship of the best, though crucified and God-forsaken in its dying pangs, the sacramental rites of fellowship in common woe, visions that purify through admiration and despairing love, which keep their spiritual life intact beneath the murderous clutches of disproof and feed a martyr's strength. Religion high, Rosencrantz here, but with communicants few as the cedars upon Lemedon. A child might count them. What the world demands is faith coercive of the multitude. Tush, Guildenstern, you granted him too much, burst in Laertes. I will never grant 1 inch of law to feeble blasphemies which hold no higher ratio to life, full vigorous human life, that peopled earth, and wrought and fought and loved and bravely died, than the sick morning glooms of debauches. Old nations breed old children, wizened babes, whose youth is languid and incredulous, weary of life, without the will to die, their passions visionary appetites of bloodless spectres, wailing that the world for lack of substance slips from out their grasp, their thoughts the withered husks of all things dead, holding no force of germs instinct with life, which never hesitates but moves and grows. Yet hear them boast in screams their godlike ill, excess of knowing. Fie on you, Rosencrantz! You lend your brains and fine divining tongue for base notes to this shriveling crudity, this immature decrepitude that strains to fill our ears and claim the prize of strength for mere unmanliness. Out on them all! Wits, puling minstrels, and philosophers, who, living softly, prate of suicide, and suck the commonwealth to feed their ease while they vent epigrams and threnodies, mocking or wailing all the eager work which makes that public store whereon they feed. Is wisdom flattened sense and mere distaste? Why, any superstition warm with love, inspired with purpose, wild with energy that streams resistless through its ready frame, has more of human truth within its life than souls that look through color into naught, whose brain, too impassioned for delight, has feeble ticklings of a vanity which finds the universe beneath its mark, and scorning the blue heavens as merely blue, can only say, "What then?" preeminent in wondrous want of likeness to their kind, founding that worship of sterility, whose one supreme is vacillating will which makes the light, and then says, "'Twere better not." Here rash Laertes brought his Handel strain, as of some angry polypheme, to pause, and Osric, shocked at ardours out of taste, relieved the audience with a tenor voice and delicate delivery. For me, I range myself in line with Rosencrantz against all schemes, religious or profane, that flaunt a good as pretext for a lash, to flog us all who have the better taste into conformity, requiring me at peril of the thong and sharp disgrace to care how mere Philistines pass their lives, whether the English pauper total grows from 1 to 2 before the noughts, how far Teuton will outbreed Roman, if the class of proletaires will make a federal band to bind all Europe and America, throw in their wrestling every government, snatch the world's purse, and keep the guillotine. Or else, admitting these are casualties, driving my soul with scientific hail that shuts the landscape out with particles, insisting that the paligenesis means telegraphs, and measure of the rate at which the stars move, nobody knows where. So far, my Rosencrantz, we are at one, but not when you blaspheme the life of art, the sweet perennial youth of poesy, which asks no logic but its sensuous growth, no right but loveliness, which fearless strolls betwixt the burning mountain and the sea, reckless of earthquake and the lava stream, filling its hour with beauty. It knows naught of bitter strife, denial, grim resolve, sour resignation, busy emphasis of fresh illusions, named the newborn true, old error's latest child. But as a lake images all things, yet within its depths dreams them all lovelier, thrills with sound and makes a harp of plenteous liquid chords, so art or poesy. We its votaries are the Olympians, fortunately born from the elemental mixture. 'Tis our lot to pass more swiftly than the Delian god. But still the earth breaks into flowers for us, and mortal sorrows, when they reach our ears, are dying falls to melody divine. Hatred, war, vice, crime, sin, those human storms, cyclones, floods, what you will, outbursts of force, feed art with contrast, give the grander touch to the master's pencil and the poet's song, serve as Vesuvian fires or navies tossed on yawning waters, which, when viewed afar, deepen the calm sublime of those choice souls who keep the heights of poesy and turn a fleckless mirror to the various world, giving its many-named and fitful flux an imaged, harmless, spiritual life with pure selection native to art's frame of beauty only, save its minor scale of ill and pain to give the ideal joy a keener edge. This is a mongrel globe. All finer being wrought from its coarse earth is but accepted privilege. What else your boasted virtue, which proclaims itself a good above the average consciousness? Nature exists by partiality. Each planet's poise must carry two extremes, with verging breadth of minor wretchedness. We are her favorites and accept our wings. For your accusal, Rosencrantz, that art shares in the dread and weakness of the time, I hold it null, since art or poesy pure, being blameless by all standards save her own, takes no account of modern or antique in morals, science, or philosophy. No dull Alenchus makes a yoke for her, whose law and measure are the sweet consent of sensibilities that move apart from rise or fall of systems, states, or creeds, apart from what Philistines call man's wheel. Ay, we all know those votaries of the muse, ravished with singing till they quite forgot their manhood, sang and gaped and took no food, then died of emptiness, and for reward lived on as grasshoppers. Laertes thus. But then he checked himself as one who feels his muscles dangerous, and Guildenstern filled up the pause with calmer confidence. You use your wings, my Osric, poise yourself safely outside all reach of argument. Then dogmatize at will, a method known to ancient women and philosophers, nay, to Philistines, whom you most abhor. Else, could an arrow reach you, I should ask, whence came taste, beauty, sensibilities refined to preference infallible? Doubtless, ye are gods. These odours ye inhale, a sacrificial scent. But how, I pray, are odours made, if not by gradual change of sense or substance? Is your beautiful a seedless, rootless flower, or has it grown with human growth, which means the rising sum of human struggle, order, knowledge? Sense trained to a fuller record, more exact, to truer guidance of each passionate force. Get me your roseate flesh without the blood, give fine aromas without structure wrought from simple being into manifold, then, and only then, flaunt your beautiful as what can live apart from thought, creed, states, which means life's structure. Osric, I beseech, the infallible should be more Catholic, join in a war dance with the cannibals, hear Chinese music, love a face tattooed, give adoration to a pointed skull, and think the Hindu Siva looks divine. 'Tis art, 'tis poesies. Say, you object? How came you by that lofty dissidence, if not through changes in the social man, widening his consciousness from here and now to larger wholes beyond the reach of sense, controlling to a fuller harmony the thrill of passion and the rule of fact, and paling false ideals in the light of full-rayed sensibilities which blend truth and desire? taste, beauty, what are they but the soul's choice toward perfect bias wrought by finer balance of a fuller growth? Sense brought to subtlest metamorphosis through love, thought, joy, the general human store which grows from all life's functions. As the plant holds its corolla, purple, delicate, solely as outflush of that energy which moves transformingly in root and branch. Guildenstern paused, and Hamlet, quivering since Osric spoke, in transit imminent from Catholic striving into laxity, ventured his word. "Seems to me, Guildenstern, your argument, though shattering Osric's point that sensibilities can move apart from social order, yet has not annulled his thesis that the life of poesy, admitting it must grow from out the whole, has separate functions, a transfigured realm, freed from the rigors of the practical, where what is hidden from the grosser world, stormed down by roar of engines and the shouts of eager concourse, rises beauteous as voice of water-drops in sapphire caves, a realm where finest spirits have free sway in exquisite selection, uncontrolled by a hard material necessity of cause and consequence. For you will grant the ideal has discoveries which ask no test, no faith, save that we joy in them. A new-found continent with spreading lands where pleasure charters all, where virtue, rank, use, right, and truth have but one name, delight. Thus art's creations, when etherealized to leave admixture of the grosser fact, delight may stamp as highest." "Possible," said Guildenstern, with touch of weariness. "But then we might dispute of what is gross, what high, what low." "Nay," said Laertes, "ask the mightiest makers who have reigned, still reign within the ideal realm. See if their thought be drained of practice in the thick warm blood of hearts that beat in action various through the wide drama of the struggling world. Goodbye, Horatio." Each now said goodbye. Such breakfast, such beginning of the day, is more than half the whole. The sun was hot on southward branches of the meadow elms. The shadows slowly farther crept and veered like changing memories, and Hamlet strolled alone and dubious on the empurpled path between the waving grasses of new June, close by the stream where well-compacted boats were moored or moving with a lazy creak to the soft dip of oars. All sounds were light as tiny silver bells upon the robes of hovering silence. Birds made twitterings that seemed but silence self or full of love. 'Twas invitation, all to sweet repose, and Hamlet, drowsy with the mingled draughts of cider and conflicting sentiments, chose a green couch and watched with half-closed eyes the meadow road, the stream, and dreamy lights, until they merged themselves in sequence strange with undulating ether, time, the soul, the will supreme, the individual claim, the social ought, the lyrist's liberty, Democritus, Pythagoras, in talk with Anselm, Darwin, Comte, and Schopenhauer. The poets rising slow from out their tombs, summoned as arbiters that border world of dozing, ere the senses fully locked, and then he dreamed as a dream so luminous that he woke, he says, convinced, but what it taught withholds as yet. Perhaps those graver shades admonished him that visions told in haste part with their virtues to the squandering lips, and leave the soul in wider emptiness. End of A College Breakfast Party by George Eliot, read for LibriVox by Josh Mitteldorf. This recording is in the public domain.
Dirge from Cymbaline, Act 4, Scene 2, by William Shakespeare. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly task hast done. Home art gone, and ta'en thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney-sweepers, come to dust. Fear no more the frown of the great. Thou art past the tyrant's stroke. Care no more to clothe and eat. To thee the reed is as the oak. The sceptre, learning, physic, must all follow this, and come to dust. Fear no more the lightning flash, nor the all-dreaded thunderstone. Fear not slander, censure rash. Thou hast finished joy and moan. All lovers young, all lovers must consign to thee, and come to dust. No exerciser harm thee, nor no witchcraft charm thee. Ghost unlaid forbear thee, nothing ill come near thee. Quiet consummation have, and renowned be thy grave. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dryad, by William Wilfred Campbell. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Her soul was sown with the seed of the tree of old when the earth was young, and glad with the light of its majesty, the light of her beautiful being upgrew. And the winds that swept over land and sea, and like a harper the great boughs strung, whispered her all things new. The tree reached forth to the sun and the wind, and towered to heaven above. But she was the soul that under its rind whispered its joy through the whole wood's span, sweet and glad and tender and kind. For her love for the tree was a holier love than the love of woman for man. The seasons came and the seasons went, and the woodland music rang, and under her wide umbrageous tent, hidden forever from mortal eye, she sang earth's beauty and wonderment. But men never knew the spirit that sang this music too wondrous to die. Only nature, forever young, and her children, forever true, knew the beauty of her who sung, and her tender, glad love for the tree, till on her music the wild hawk hung from his eerie eye in the blue, to drink her melody free. And the creatures of earth would creep from their haunts to stare with their wilding eyes, to hearken those rhythms of earth's romance that never the ear of mortal hath heard, till the elfin squirrels would caper and dance, and the hedgehog's sleepy and shy surprise would grow to the thought of a bird. And the pale wood-flowers from their cradles of dew, where they rocked them the whole night long, while the dark wheeled round and the stars looked through into the great wood's slumberous breast, till the grey of the night, like a mist outblew, hearkened the piercing joy of her song, that sank like a star in their rest. But all things came to an end at last, when the wings of being are furled, and there blew one night a maddening blast from those wastes where ships dismantle and drown, that ravaged the forest and thundered past. And in the wreck of that ruined world the Dryad's tree went down. When the pale stars dimmed their tapers of gold, and over the night's round rim the day rose sullen and ragged and cold, over that wind-swept, desolate wild, where the huge trunks lay like giants of old, prone, slain on some battlefield, silent and grim, the wood-creatures, curious, mild, searching their solitudes, found her there like a snowdrift out in the morn, one lily arm round the beech-trunk bare, one curved, cold under her elfin head, with the beechen shine in her nut-brown hair, and the pallor of dawn on her face, lovelorn, beautiful, passionless, dead. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sona Torrek, Sun's Loss, from Chapter 81 of Egil's Saga, translation by W.C. Green, read for LibriVox.org by Hatton43, blogdelaquinzaine.wordpress.com. The context of the poem is that Egil has just lost his son Bodvar in a storm at sea, having previously lost his son Gunnar. Much doth it task me, my tongue to move, through my throat to utter the breath of song. Poesy, prize of Odin, promise now I may not, a draught drawn not lightly from deep thought's dwelling. Forth it flows, but hardly, for within my breast heaving, sobbing stifles hindered stream of soul. Blessed boon to mortals brought from Odin's king, goodly treasure stolen from giant land of yore. He who so blameless bore him in life, o'erborne by billows, with boat was whelmed. Sea, waves flood that whilom, welled from giant's wound, smite upon the grave gate of my sire and son. Dwindling now my kindred draw near to their end, even as forest saplings felled or tempest strown. Not gay or gladsome goes he who beareth body of kinsman on funeral bier. Of father fallen first I may tell, of much-loved mother must mourn the loss. Sad store hath memory for minstrel skill, a wood to bloom leafy with words of song. Most woeful the breach where the wave in break on the fenced hold of my father's kin, unfilled, as I wot, and open doth stand the gap of sun rent by the greedy surge. Me ran the sea-queen, roughly hath shaken. I stand of beloved ones, stripped and all bare. Cut hath the billow the cord of my kin, strand of my own twisting so stout and strong. Sure, if sword could venge such cruel wrong, evil times would wait, Ger, ocean god, that wind giant's brother were I strong to slay. Gainst him and his sea-brood battling would I go. But I in no wise boast as I ween, strength that may strive with the stout ship's bane. For to eyes of all easy now 'tis seen, how the old man's lot helpless is and lone. Me hath the main of much bereaved, dire is the tale, the deaths of kin, since he the shelter and shield of my house hired him from life to heaven's glad realm. Full surely I know in my son was waxing the stuff and the strength of a stout-limbed wight. Had he reached but ripeness to raise his shield, and Odin laid hand on his liegeman true. Willing he followed his father's word, though all opposing should thwart my rede. He in mine household mine honour upheld, of my power and rule the prop and the stay. Oft to my mind my loss doth come, how I brotherless bide, bereaved and lone. Thereon I bethink me when thickens the fight, thereon with much searching my soul doth muse. Who staunch stands by me in stress of fight, shoulder to shoulder, side by side? Such want doth weaken in war's dread hour, weak-winged I fly, whom friends all fail. Son's place to his sire, saith a proverb true, another son born alone can fill. Of kinsmen none, though ne'er so kind, to brother can stand in brother's stead. O'er all our ice fields, our northern snows, few now I find faithful and true. Dark deeds men love, doom death to their kin, a brother's body barter for gold. Unpleasing to me our people's mood, each seeking his own in selfish peace. To the happier bees home hath passed my son, my good wife's child, to his glorious kin. Odin, mighty monarch, of minstrel mead the lord, on me a heavy hand harmful doth lay. Gloomy and unrest, ever I grieve, sinks my drooping brow, seat of sight and thought. This fire of sickness, first from my home, swept off a son with savage blow, one who was heedful, harmless I wot, in deeds unblemished, in words unblamed. Still do I mind me, when the friend of men, high uplifted to the home of gods, that sapling stout of his father's stem, of my true wife born, a branch so fair. Once bare I goodwill to the great spear-lord, him trusty and true I trowed for friend, ere the giver of conquest, the car-born god, broke faith and friendship, false in my need. Now victim and worship to Vile's brother, the god I once honoured, I give no more. Yet the friend of Mimir on me hath bestowed some boot for bale, if all boons I tell. Yea, he the wolf-tamer, the war god skilful, gave poesy faultless to fill my soul, gave wit to know well each wily trickster, and force him to face me as foeman in fight. Hard am I beset, whom Hela the sister of Odin's fell captive on Dingraness waits, yet shall I gladly with right good welcome, dauntless in bearing, her death blow bide. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Eurydice to Orpheus by Robert Browning. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. A picture by Leighton. But give them me, the mouth, the eyes, the brow. Let them once more absorb me. One look now will lap me round forever, not to pass out of its light, though darkness lie beyond. Hold me but safe again within the bond of one immortal look. All woe that was, forgotten, and all terror that may be, defied. No past is mine, no future. Look at me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Farewell, My Home by Eurydice. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Farewell, my home. Though sunshine dances merrily on wave and stream and trembling leaf, though wild birds wake their minstrelsy, my heart is full of grief. No sunshine there, 'tis sad and lone, no echo to the wild bird's lay. One only thought the dear hearthstone I loved is quenched today. My heart will break, I cannot bear to part with scenes so loved, so blessed. My heart will break, I cannot tear me from this home of rest. Yet though I say farewell, my home, 'tis but the lips that speak their part. Believe wherever I may roam, I leave with thee my heart. Broken yet clinging still to thee, my home as to a mother's breast. Broken yet loving tenderly, my home, my heart's first rest. Farewell, my home, farewell, farewell. One last, one lingering look I take on each dear scene of hill and dell, of mountain bold and silver lake. Farewell, I leave my bleeding heart within thy loved retreats to roam. Farewell, farewell, too soon we part, my home, my childhood's home. Eurydice, Ballycastle, County Antrim, Ireland. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Finis by E. Estlin Cummings. Read for LibriVox.org by Amelia Chesley. Finis. Over silent waters, day descending, night ascending, floods the gentle glory of the sunset, in a golden greeting, splendidly to westward, as pale twilight trembles into darkness. Comes the last light's gracious exhortation, lifting up to peace, so when life shall falter, standing on the shores of the eternal God, may I behold my sunset, flooding over silent waters. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Four Zoas, excerpt by William Blake, 1757 to 1827. Read for LibriVox.org. What is the price of experience? Do men buy it for a song, or wisdom for a dance in the street? No, it is bought with the price of all that a man hath, his house, his wife, his children. Wisdom is sold in the desolate market where none come to buy, and in the withered field where the farmer ploughs for bread in vain. It is an easy thing to triumph in the summer's sun and in the vintage, and to sing on the wagon loaded with corn. It is an easy thing to talk of patience to the afflicted, to speak the laws of prudence to the houseless wanderer, to listen to the hungry raven's cry in wintry season, when the red blood is filled with wine and with the marrow of lambs. It is an easy thing to laugh at wrathful elements, to hear the dog howl at the wintry door, the ox in the slaughter-house moan, to see a God on every wind and a blessing on every blast, to hear sounds of love in the thunderstorm that destroys our enemy's house, to rejoice in the blight that covers his field and the sickness that cuts off his children, while our olive and vine sing and laugh round our door, and our children bring fruits and flowers. Then the groan and the dolour are quite forgotten, and the slave grinding at the mill, and the captive in chains, and the poor in the prison, and the soldier in the field when the shattered bone hath laid him groaning among the happier dead. It is an easy thing to rejoice in the tents of prosperity. Thus could I sing and thus rejoice, but it is not so with me. Compel the poor to live upon a crust of bread by soft mild arts. Smile when they frown, frown when they smile, and when a man looks pale with labor and abstinence, say he looks healthy and happy. And when his children sicken, let them die. There are enough born, even too many, and our earth will be overrun without these arts. If you would make the poor live with temper, with pomp give every crust of bread you give. With gracious cunning magnify small gifts. Reduce the man to want a gift, and then give with pomp. Say he smiles if you hear him sigh. If pale, say he is ruddy. Preach temperance. Say he is overgorged and drowns his wit in strong drink, though you know that bread and water are all he can afford. Flatter his wife, pity his children, till we can reduce all to our will, as spaniels are taught with art. The sun has left his blackness, and has found a fresher morning, and the mild moon rejoices in the clear and cloudless night, and man walks forth from midst of the fires. The evil is all consumed. His eyes behold the angelic spheres rising night and day. The stars consumed like a lamp blown out, and in their stead, behold, the expanding eyes of man, behold, the depths of wondrous worlds. One earth, one sea beneath, nor erring globes wander, but stars of fire rising up nightly from the ocean, and one sun each morning, like a new-born man, issues with songs and joy, calling the ploughman to his labor and the shepherd to his rest. He walks upon the eternal mountains, raising his heavenly voice, conversing with the animal forms of wisdom night and day, that, risen from the sea of fire, renewed walk o'er the earth. For Tharmas brought his flocks upon the hills, and in the vales around the eternal man's bright tent. The little children play among the woolly flocks. The hammer of Urthona sounds in the deep caves beneath, his limbs renewed. His lions roar around the furnaces, and in evening sport upon the plains. They raise their faces from the earth, conversing with the man. How is it we have walked through fires and yet are not consumed? How is it that all things are changed, even as in ancient times? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Gates of Life by George Cabot Lodge. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Held in the bosom of night, large to the limits of wonder, close where the refluent seas wrinkle the wondering sands, where, with a tenderness torn from the secrets of sorrow, and under the pale pure spaces of night felt like ineffable hands, the weak strange pressure of winds moved with the moving of waters, vast with their solitude, sad with their silences, strange with their sound, comes like a sigh from the sleep of the realmless Olympian daughters, widowed of worship by time, at the feet of their Father uncrowned. Held in the bosom of night, with the wind in my face, and the ocean stirred through its tremulous deeps with the unfulfilled dawning of moon, as involved in the power of life and ashake with the pulse of emotion, it waited when slow through the void came the primitive promise of noon, filled with the open avowals of nature, the choral that falters only to swell through the channels of song like an affluent stream, pure with old faiths of the heart that have died in the horns of their altars, leaving their beauty to live like the memories kept of a dream, like the fragments of imminent silence, like the dew of immense resurrection, falls the night on mine eyes, in the curve of my lips the fresh tears of the sea, and like rifts in the texture of life, like the soul in empiric reflection, come the tacit and lingering lapses where the phantoms of heaven are free. There is peace in the winds, the invisible pinions of dark. There is patience enduring in the native and motionless outlines of headland and forest and stone. There is love in the perfumes essential of earth, the old impulse maturing to fruitage and calm in the star-scattered chasms where night is alone. I am drenched with the night. I am drunk with the wine she prepares for the spirit. I am bathed in her solitudes, filled with her proper immensities, mad with the perilous visions of realms that my soul, is it strong, may inherit, with the simple and adequate bounty of natural things. I am sad with the solemn completeness of joy that abides in the centers of sorrow, the sadness of life understood in its prophecy, loved in its pain. I am alien to yesterday, held on the heart-beat of time, though tomorrow return and its temperance fall on my zenith like colorless rain. I am urged with the germinal ichor, whose functional vigor increases, subsides, and suspires, and fashions the world to its purpose again. For the sands shall be fluent with sea when life's tremulous episode ceases, and winds from the regions of sunset blow warm with the perfume of rain. The darkness shall furnish its delicate silence, the destitute spaces, august with disseminate sons, shall be heritage still for the soul, and old memories, warm from the heart, shall inhabit earth's intimate places, when the cool, kind fingers of death loose our bonds, and we leap to the goal. Though life shall return to me, sadden me, cinctured with sin and besotted with heartless, immoderate voices, and stale with perversion of truth, I have tasted the lips of the night, the caress of its wind, and forgotten, alone on the bosom of nature, the days that shall wither my youth. I have felt with the manifold ocean, with the blind, blank, lustreless shining of starlight, and tasted intensely the crude, cold smells of the earth. I have put my weak hands in the large hands of nature that caught me declining through colorless ashes of thought in the fear of perpetual birth. She found me and nourished me, nourished mine eyes that were thirsty for shadow, my heart that desired her blindly, my senses diseased in the rife, blurred phases of mortal desire, my soul that replied to her sad, slow power, her promise of ultimate peace through the strength of her life that is lost in its bigness and big with the primitive glories. Can it save from the life that is cramped in the dust-stifled highways of men? Can it open the gates of the soul where the vital commencement and core is, and the soul leave the centers of life and be merged into nothing again? Can life save from itself? O beloved, thine eyes overcome me, and longer than flesh can endure is the kiss on the dew of thy lips, and the flame, and the old safe landmarks of life are lost in its volume, while stronger it widens till sorrow and happiness, virtue and sin are the same. For love is coeval with life, and what were divided are one now, as we leap in the night, as we plunge in the wellspring of nature, and then the world grows coherent with music. O haste! Shall our heaven be one now, and the manna of earth change to food for the ultimate soul wants of men? Shall life turn to death in the living? Shall we pass from the heart-shaken centers of nature, the pinnacled crisis and powerful matrix of life, that project through the cosmical fabric, where the sea meadows pulse, where the scent stirs in flowers that feed the faint breezes, the eternal progenital strife? Can we pass to the perfect cessation, where life is a dream unrecurring? Earth's divisionless ecstasy fills me, till my body is rent with the strain. O heart! Could the flesh but endure the full splendor of life, and enduring dissolve in the quiet perfection of death, without hope, without pain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In Summertime on Bredon by A.E. Housman. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. In summertime on Bredon, the bells they sound so clear, round both the shires they ring them, in steeples far and near, a happy noise to hear. Here of a Sunday morning my love and I would lie, and see the coloured counties, and hear the lark so high about us in the sky. The bells would ring to call her in valleys miles away. Come all to church, good people, come and pray. But here my love would stay. And I would turn and answer among the springing thyme, "O peal upon our wedding, and we will hear the chime, and come to church in time." But when the snows at Christmas on Bredon top were strown, my love rose up so early, and stole out unbeknown, and went to church alone. They tolled the one bell only, groom there was none to see. The mourners followed after, and so to church went she, and would not wait for me. The bells they sound on Bredon, and still the steeples hum, "Come all to church, good people." Oh, noisy bells, be dumb. I hear you, I will come. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
It Rains by Edward Thomas. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. It rains, and nothing stirs within the fence, anywhere through the orchard's untrodden, dense forest of parsley. The great diamonds of rain on the grass blades there is none to break, or the fallen petals further down to shake. And I am nearly as happy as possible to search the wilderness in vain, though well, to think of two walking, kissing there, drenched, yet forgetting the kisses of the rain. Sad, too, to think that never, never again. Unless alone, so happy shall I walk in the rain. When I turn away, on its fine stalk twilight has fined to naught, the parsley flower figures, suspended still in ghostly white, the past hovering as it revisits the light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Lakeland Once More by William Watson. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Lakeland once more. Mere under mountains lone, like a moat under lowering ramparts, garrulous petulant beck, sinister laughterless tarn. Haunt of the vagabond feet of my fancy forever reverting, haunt of this vagabond heart, Cumbrian valleys and fells. You that enchant all ears with the manifold tones of silence, you that around me in youth magical filaments wove, you were my earliest passion, and when shall its fealty falter? Ah, when Helvellyn is low, ah, when Winander is dry. Had I not dwelt where nature but prattled familiar language, homely the theme and the word, prose of the hedges and lanes? Here she spake to my spirit in lofty and resonant numbers, rhythms of epical mood, silences great as her song. Time hath scattered his gifts, and death has taken his tribute. Eastward, westward blown, out of your ken I have fared. Watched in jewelled midnight the Mediterranean twinkling, watched from Como's wave pinnacled summits afire. Heard the delight of the waters that break upon savage Tantallon, heard the upthundering tides harry Tintagel in vain. Fortune stormy and fair my life's frail pinnace hath weathered, shocks of calamity borne, gusts of a shattering joy. Mine being good without stint, nor niggardly portion of evil, friendships, enmities mine, love, and a whisper of fame. Yet unto you I turn, O land in whose mountain portals rustles my past like leaves, memories brush me as wings, meets me the face, grown strange, of the self that is lost, that is vanished. Furtive revisitant shades hover and sigh and depart. Ever, O meres and valleys, an aureole haunts you of roselight, glamour of luminous hours, wraith of my passion of old. Ever the brows of Helvellyn are flushed with a virginal rapture, lit with the glow of my youth, crimson with dawn of its day. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Lover Speaks by E. Estlin Cummings. Read for LibriVox.org by Amelia Chesley. The Lover Speaks. Your little voice over the wires came leaping, and I felt suddenly dizzy, with the jostling and shouting of merry flowers, wee skipping high-heeled flames courtesied before my eyes, or twinkling over to my side, looked up with impertinently exquisite faces. Floating hands were laid upon me. I was whirled and tossed into delicious dancing, up, up, with the pale, important stars and the humorous moon. Dear girl, how I was crazy, how I cried when I heard, over time and tide and death leaping, sweetly, your voice. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Minor Prophet by George Eliot, read for LibriVox by Josh Mitteldorf. I have a friend, a vegetarian seer, by name Elias Baptist Butterworth, a harmless, bland, disinterested man, whose ancestors in Cromwell's day believed the second advent certain in 5 years. But when King Charles II came instead, revised their date and sought another world, I mean not heaven, but America. A fervid stock whose generous hope embraced the fortunes of mankind, not stopping short at rise of leather or the fall of gold, nor listening to the voices of the time as housewives listen to a cackling hen, with wonder whether she has laid her egg on their own nest-egg. Still, they did insist somewhat too wearisomely on the joys of their millennium, when coats and hats would all be of one pattern, books and songs all fit for Sundays, and the casual talk as good as sermons preached extempore. And in Elias, the ancestral zeal breathes strong as ever, only modified by transatlantic air and modern thought. You could not pass him in the street and fail to note his shoulders' long declivity, beard to the waist, swan neck, and large, pale eyes, or when he lifts his hat to mark his hair, brushed back to show his great capacity, a full grain's length at the angle of the brow, proving him witty, while the shallower men only seem witty in their repartees. Not that he's vain, but that his doctrine needs the testimony of his frontal lobe. Of all points he adopts the latest views, takes for the key of universal mind the levitation of stout gentlemen, believes the rappings are not spirits' work, but the thought atmospheres, a stream of brains in correlated force of raps, as proved by motion, heat, and science generally. The spectrum, for example, which has shown the self-same metals in the sun as here. So the thought atmosphere is everywhere. High truths that glimmered under other names to ancient sages, whence good scholarship applied to Eleusinian mysteries, the Vedas, Tripitaka, Vendidad, might furnish weaker proof for weaker minds that thought was rapping in the hoary past, and might have edified the Greeks by raps at the greater Dionysia, if their ears had not been filled with Sophoclean verse. And when all earth is vegetarian, when, lacking butchers, quadrupeds die out, and less thought atmosphere is reabsorbed by nerves of insects parasitical, those higher truths, seized now by higher minds but not expressed, the instincts hindering, will either flash out into eloquence, or better still, be comprehensible by rappings simply, without need of roots. 'Tis on this theme, the vegetarian world, that good Elias willingly expands. He loves to tell in mildly nasal tones and vowels stretched to suit the widest views, the future fortunes of our infant earth, when it will be too full of humankind to have the room for wilder animals. Saith he, Sahara will be populous with families of gentlemen retired from commerce in more central Africa, who order coolness as we order coal, and have a lobe anterior strong enough to think away the sandstorms. Science thus will leave no spot on this terraqueous globe unfit to be inhabited by man. The chief of animals, all meaner brutes, will have been smoked and elbowed out of life. No lions, then, shall lap Caffrarian pools, or shake the Atlas with their midnight roar. Even the slow, slime-loving crocodile, the last of animals to take a hint, will then retire forever from a scene where public feeling strongly sets against him. Fishes may lead carnivorous lives obscure, but must not dream of culinary rank or being dished in good society. Imagination, in that distant age, aiming at fiction called historical, will vainly try to reconstruct the times when it was man's preposterous delight to sit astride live horses which consumed materials for incalculable cakes, when there were milkmaids who drew milk from cows with udders kept abnormal for that end, since the rude mythopoeic period of Aryan dairymen who did not blush to call their milkmaid and their daughter one, helplessly gazing at the Milky Way, nor dreaming of the astral coconuts, quite at the service of posterity. 'Tis to be feared, though, that the duller boys, much given to anachronisms and nuts, Elias had confessed boys will be boys, may write a jockey for a centaur, think Europa's suitor was an Irish bull, Aesop a journalist who wrote up Fox, and Bruin a chief swindler upon change. Boys will be boys, but dogs will all be moral, with longer alimentary canals suited to diet vegetarian. The uglier breeds will fade from memory, or, being paleontological, live but as portraits in large learned books, distasteful to the feelings of an age nourished on purest beauty. Earth will hold no stupid brutes, nor cheerful queernesses, no naive cunning, grave absurdity, wart-pigs with tender and parental grunts, wombats much flattened as to their contour, perhaps from too much crushing in the ark. But taking meekly that fatality, the serious cranes, unstung by ridicule, long-headed, short-legged, solemn-looking curs, wise, silent critics of a flippant age, the silly straddling foals, the weak-brained geese, hissing fallaciously at sound of wheels, all these rude products will have disappeared, along with every faulty human type. By dint of diet vegetarian, all will be harmony of hue and line, bodies and minds all perfect, limbs well turned, and talk quite free from aught erroneous. Thus far Elias in his seer's mantle. But at the climax in his prophecy, my sinking spirits, fearing to be swamped, urge me to speak. High prospects these, my friend, setting the weak carnivorous brain astretch. But we'll resume the thread another day. Tomorrow, cries Elias, at this hour? No, not tomorrow. I shall have a cold. At least I feel some soreness, this endemic. Goodbye. No tears are sadder than the smile with which I quit Elias. Bitterly I feel that every change upon this earth is bought with sacrifice. My yearnings fail to reach that high apocalyptic mount, which shows in bird's-eye view a perfect world, or enter warmly into other joys than those of faulty, struggling humankind. That strain upon my soul's too feeble wing ends in ignoble floundering. I fall into short-sighted pity for the men who, living in those perfect future times, will not know half the dear imperfect things that move my smiles and tears, will never know the fine old incongruities that raise my friendly laugh, the innocent conceits that, like a needless eyeglass or black patch, give those who wear them harmless happiness, the twists and cracks in our poor earthenware that touch me to more conscious fellowship. I am not myself the finest Parian, with my coevals. So poor Colin Clout. to whom raw onion gives prospective zest, consoling hours of dampest wintry work, could hardly fancy any regal joys quite unimpregnate with the onion's scent. Perhaps his highest hopes are not all clear of waftings from that energetic bulb. 'Tis well that onion is not heresy. Speaking in parable, I am Colin Clout. A clinging flavor penetrates my life. My onion is imperfectness. I cleave to nature's blunders, evanescent types which sages banish from utopia. Not worship beauty, say you? Patience, my friend. I worship in the temple with the rest, but by my hearth I keep a sacred nook for gnomes and dwarves, duck-footed waddling elves, who stitched and hammered for the weary man in days of old. And in that piety I clothe ungainly forms inherited from toiling generations, daily bent at desk, or plough, or loom, or in the mine, in pioneering labours for the world. Nay, I am apt when floundering, confused from too rash flight, to grasp at paradox, and pity future men who will not know a keen experience with pity blent, the pathos exquisite of lovely minds hid in harsh forms, not penetrating them, like fire divine within a common bush which glows transfigured by the heavenly guest, so that men put their shoes off, but encaged like a sweet child within some thick-walled cell, who leaps and fails to hold the window bars, but having shown a little dimpled hand, is visited thenceforth by tender hearts whose eyes keep watch about the prison walls, a foolish, nay, a wicked paradox. For purest pity is the eye of love, melting at sight of sorrow, and to grieve because it sees no sorrow shows a love warped from its truer nature, turned to love of merest habit, like the miser's greed. But I am Colin still. My prejudice is for the flavor of my daily food. Not that I doubt the world is growing still, as once it grew from chaos and from night, or have a soul too shrunken for the hope which dawned in human breasts, a double morn with earliest watchings of the rising light chasing the darkness, and through many an age has raised the vision of a future time that stands an angel with a face all mild, spearing the demon. I, too, rest in faith that man's perfection is the crowning flower toward which the urgent sap in life's great tree is pressing, seen in puny blossoms now, but in the world's great morrows to expand with broadest petal and with deepest glow. Yet see the patched and plodding citizen waiting upon the pavement with the throng, while some victorious world hero makes triumphal entry, and the peal of shouts and flash of faces neath uplifted hats run like a storm of joy along the streets. He says, "God bless him," almost with a sob, as the great hero passes. He is glad the world holds mighty men and mighty deeds. The music stirs his pulses like strong wine. The moving splendor touches him with awe. 'Tis glory shed round the common wheel, and he will pay his tribute willingly, though with the pennies earned by sordid toil. Perhaps the hero's deeds have helped to bring a time when every honest citizen shall wear a coat unpatched, and yet he feels more easy fellowship with neighbors there who look on too, and he will soon relapse from noticing the banners and the steeds to think with pleasure there is just one bun left in his pocket that may serve to tempt the wide-eyed lad whose weight is all too much for that young mother's arms. And then he falls to dreamy picturing of sunny days when he himself was a small big-cheeked lad in some far village where no heroes came, and stood a listener twixt his father's legs in the warm firelight while the old folk talked and shook their heads and looked upon the floor. And he was puzzled, thinking life was fine, the bread and cheese so nice all through the year, and Christmas sure to come. Oh, that good time! He, could he choose, would have those days again, and see the dear old-fashioned things once more. But soon The wheels and drums have all passed by, and tramping feet are heard like sudden rain. The quiet startles our good citizen. He feels the child upon his arms, and knows he is with the people making holiday, because of hopes for better days to come. But hope, to him, was like the brilliant west, telling of sunrise in a world unknown, and from that dazzling curtain of bright hues he turned to the familiar face of fields lying all clear in the calm morning land. Maybe 'tis wiser not to fix a lens too scrutinizing on the glorious times when Barbarossa shall arise and shake his mountain, good King Arthur come again, and all the heroes of such giant soul that, living once to cheer mankind with hope, they had to sleep until the time was ripe for greater deeds to match their greater thought. Yet no, the earth yields nothing more divine than high prophetic vision, than the seer, who, fasting from man's meaner joy, beholds the paths of beauteous order, and constructs a fairer type, to shame our low content. But prophecy is like potential sound, which turned to music seems a voice sublime from out the soul of light, but turns to noise in scrapnel pipes and makes all ears averse. The faith that life on earth is being shaped to glorious ends, that order, justice, love mean man's completeness, mean effect as sure as roundness in the dewdrop, that great faith is but the rushing and expanding stream of thought, of feeling, fed by all the past. Our finest hope is finest memory, as they who love in age think youth is blessed, because it has a life to fill with love, full souls or double mirrors, making still an endless vista of fair things before, repeating things behind. So faith is strong only when we are strong, shrinks when we shrink. It comes when music stirs us, and the chords, moving on some grand climax, shake our souls with influx new that makes new energies. It comes in swellings of the heart and tears that rise at noble and at gentle deeds, at labors of the master artist's hand, which trembling touches to a finer end, trembling before an image seen within. It comes in monuments of heroic love, on jealous joy in joy not made for us, in conscious triumph of the good within, making us worship goodness that rebukes. Even our failures are a prophecy, even our yearnings and our bitter tears. After that, fair and true we cannot grasp, as patriots who seem to die in vain make liberty more sacred by their pangs. Presentiment of better things on earth sweeps in with every force that stirs our souls to admiration, self-renouncing love, or thoughts like light that bind the world in one, sweeps like the sense of vastness when at night we hear the roll and dash of waves that break nearer and nearer with the rushing tide, which rises to the level of the cliff because the wide Atlantic rolls behind, throbbing respondent to the far-off orbs. End of The Minor Prophet by George Eliot. This recording is in the public domain.
Mothers of Men by George Cabot Lodge. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Weep, mothers of men, out of pain ye have peopled the earth, and the pain of life is the pain of birth, with its sordid lust and its evil mirth, and yet ye have borne and must bear again. Weep, mothers of men. Weep, mothers of men, the toil of body and ache of brain, the sweat of life at the end proves vain. Your children leave you to dare the strain. Your children return to you alien. Weep, mothers of men. Weep, mothers of men, The hands of the world are strong to take the lives ye bear for the world's sole sake, to try their souls till they bend or break. Your children vanish from out your ken. Weep, mothers of men. Weep, mothers of men, for a woman's lips, for the lust of gold. Your children's honor is bought and sold. Your children die in the dark and cold. Your children never shall come again. Weep, mothers of men. Weep, mothers of men. The human heart is the proper sheath for the dagger of life. Ye have blown the breath of life in the world, and it ends in death. Your children live and die, and then weep, mothers of men. Weep, mothers of men. Weep and pray to the God whose scorn has given ye life, that men may be born, hearts to suffer and eyes to mourn. For the crown of love is a crown of thorn, and your children return to you alien, perish and never return again. Weep, mothers of men.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mowing by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. There was never a sound beside the wood but one, and that was my long scythe whispering to the ground. What was it whispered? I knew not well myself. Perhaps it was something about the heat of the sun, something perhaps about the lack of sound, and that was why it whispered and did not speak. It was no dream of the gift of idle hours, or easy gold at the hand of fay or elf. Anything more than the truth would have seemed too weak to the earnest love that laid the swale in rows, not without feeble pointed spikes of flowers, pale orchises, and scared a bright green snake. The fact is the sweetest dream that labor knows. My long scythe whispered and left the hay to make. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Negro Speaks of Rivers by Langston Hughes. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirby Wheatland. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers. Ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
No Coward Soul Is Mine by Emily Bronte. Read for LibriVox.org by KyoBlanchett. No coward soul is mine, no trembler in the world's storm-troubled sphere. I see heaven's glory shine, and faith shines equal arming me from fear. O God within my breast, almighty ever-present deity, life that in me hast rest, as I undying life have power in thee. Vain are the thousand creeds that move men's hearts, unutterably vain, worthless as withered weeds, or idlest froth amid the boundless main. To waken doubt in one holding so fast by thy infinity, so surely anchored on the steadfast rock of immortality. With wide embracing love thy spirit animates eternal years, pervades and broods above, changes, sustains, dissolves, creates and rears. Though earth and moon were gone, and suns and universe ceased to be, and thou wert left alone, every existence would exist in thee. There is not room for death, nor atom that his might could render void, since thou art being and breath, and what thou art may never be destroyed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Old Ironsides by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Read for LibriVox.org by Esther Canis. Ay, tear her tattered ensign down, long has it waved on high, and many an eye has danced to see that banner in the sky. Beneath it rung the battle shout, and burst the cannon's roar. The meteor of the ocean air shall sweep the clouds no more. Her deck, once red with heroes' blood, where knelt the vanquished foe, when winds were hurrying o'er the flood, and waves were white below. No more shall feel the victor's tread, or know the conquered knee. The harpies of the shore shall pluck the eagle of the sea. Oh, better that her shattered hulk should sink beneath the wave, her thunders shook the mighty deep, and there should be her grave. Nail to the mast her holy flag, set every threadbare sail, and give her to the god of storms, the lightning and the gale. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On a Stupendous Leg of Granite by Horace Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Discovered standing by itself in the deserts of Egypt, with the inscription inserted below. In Egypt's sandy silence, all alone, stands a gigantic leg, which far off throws the only shadow that the desert knows. I am great Ozymandias, saith the stone. The King of Kings, this mighty city shows the wonders of my hand. The city's gone. Naught but the leg remaining to disclose the site of that forgotten Babylon. We wonder, and some hunter may express wonder like ours, when through the wilderness where London stood, holding the wolf in chase, he meets some fragment huge, and stops to guess what wonderful but unrecorded race once dwelt in that annihilated place. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Peter the Wag by W. S. Gilbert. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. Policeman Peter forth I drag from his obscure retreat. He was a merry, genial wag, who loved a mad conceit. If he were asked the time of day by country bumpkins green, he not unfrequently would say, "A quarter past 13." If ever you by word of mouth inquired of Mr. Forth the way to somewhere in the south, he always sent you north. With little boys his beat along he loved to stop and play. He loved to send old ladies wrong, and teach their feet to stray. He would in frolic moments, when such mischief bent upon, take bishops up as betting men, bid ministers move on. Then all the worthy boys he knew he regularly licked, and always collared people who had had their pockets picked. He was not naturally bad, or viciously inclined, but from his early youth he had a waggish turn of mind. The men of London grimly scowled with indignation wild. The men of London gruffly growled, but Peter calmly smiled. Against this minion of the crown the swelling murmurs grew, from Camberwell to Kentish town, from Rotherhithe to Kew. Still humoured he his wagsome turn, and fed in various ways the coward rage that dared to burn, but did not dare to blaze. Still, retribution has her day, although her flight is slow. One day that crusher lost his way near Poland Street, Soho. The haughty youth, too proud to ask, to find his way resolved, and in the tangle of his task, got more and more involved. The men of London, overjoyed, came there to jeer their foe, and flocking crowds completely cloyed the mazes of Soho. The news on telegraphic wires sped swiftly o'er the lea. Excursion trains from distant shires brought myriads to see. For weeks he trod his self-made beats through Newport, Gerrard, Bear, Greek, Rupert, Frith, Dean, Poland streets, and into Golden Square. But all, alas, in vain, for when he tried to learn the way of little boys or grown-up men, they none of them would say. Their eyes would flash, their teeth would grind, their lips would tightly curl. They'd say, "Thy way thyself must find, thou misdirecting churl." And similarly also when he tried a foreign friend, Italians answered, "Il parle." The French, "No comprehend." The Russ would say with gleaming eye, "Sevastopol," and groan. The Greeks said, "Tipto, tiptomai, tipto, tiptain, tipton." To wonder thus for many a year that crusher never ceased. The men of London dropped a tear, their anger was appeased. At length exploring gangs were sent to find poor Forth's remains. A handsome grant by Parliament was voted for their pains. To seek the poor policeman out, bold spirits volunteered, and when at length they solved the doubt, the men of London cheered. And in a yard, dark, dank, and drear, they found him on the floor. It leads from Richmond Buildings, near the Royalty stage door. With brandy cold and brandy hot, they plied him, starved and wet, and made him sergeant on the spot, the men of London's pet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Poem 5 by Abid, from the Diwans of Abid ibn al-Abras of Assad and Amir ibn at-Tufal of Amir ibn Sa'asa, translated by Sir Charles Lyell. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Hatton43, blogdelaquinzaine.wordpress.com. O home of Hind, there have wrecked it showers continuous and heavy. In Al-Jau it lies like a precious stuff of Al-Yaman, ragged and tattered. The winds of summer have passed over it, following one on another, and have swept it clear of all traces by the trailing of their skirts. I stayed my companions there that I might inquire of it, and my tears, as I stood, soaked through the bosom of my tunic, in longing for the tribe and the days when all of them were there together. But what right to emotion or longing have those that are like me? Already there has come upon my locks the silvering of old age, and thereon, in disgust, fair women have bidden me a final farewell. Yea, once did I soothe my cares, when as they came upon me with a stout camel, like an anvil in hardness, swift of pace, lightly she travels with the saddle trees, fleet of foot is she, straight goes she through the hot noontide, ambling and trotting on. Lumps of flesh have been cast upon her, as it were, on either side. She is like a lonely wild bull in Al-Jau that sweeps the ground with his tail. Enough of this. Many the war wherein I have borne my part, till I have caused its fire to blaze up with my kindling. Beneath me a mare, strongly built, short-haired, mighty of limb, swift as an arrow which a strong bowman sends forth from his hand. And many the captain of a closely gathered host, bristling with teeth, bright with armour, in mail coats with many brave champions, whose body I have pierced with my lance, and he has swayed and fallen, as bends and falls a bough cut through of a soft wooded jujube tree. And oft times the wine in fragrance like broken pieces of musk. Long time has it spent in the wine jar, year after year passing by. Have I quaffed in the morning before the dawn shone forth to our mirth, in the tent of a man rich in bounty, pouring it freely to all. And many the damsel, large-limbed, like a hind of Aljow, soft of skin, the dew of her lips was as though it had been mixed with potent wine, have I dallied with for near half the night, and she with me, and then departed, with her love fixed deep within my heart. Ah, gone is youth, and has sworn that ne'er will he visit me more, and hoariness has taken his place in the locks that fall on each side, and hoary hairs are ashamed to the court where they come to dwell. Yea, goodly the full black locks that were mine in days gone by. End of Poem 5.
The Ruined Maid by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by Pat Mathewson. March 2017. Exeter, England. The Ruined Maid by Thomas Hardy. Oh, Amelia, my dear, this does everything crown. Who could have supposed I should meet you in town? And whence such fair garments, such prosperity? Oh, didn't you know I'd been ruined, said she. You left us in tatters without shoes or socks, tired of digging potatoes and spudding up docks, and now you've gay bracelets and bright feathers 3. Yes, that's how we dress when we're ruined, said she. At home in the barton you said thee and thou, and thee coon, and thee assoon, and t'other, but now you're talking quite fitsy for high company. Some polish is gained with one's ruin, said she. Your hands were like paws then, your face blue and bleak, but now I'm bewitched by your delicate cheek, and your little gloves fit as on any lady. We never do work when we're ruined, said she. You used to call home life a hag-ridden dream, and you'd sigh and you'd sock, but at present you seem to know not of megrims or melancholy. True, one's pretty lively when ruined, said she. I wish I had feathers, a fine sweeping gown, and a delicate face and could strut about town. My dear, a raw country girl such as you be cannot quite expect that. You ain't ruined, said she. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
She Comes As Comes the Summer Night by Frank S. Williamson. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. She comes as comes the summer night, violet, perfumed, clad with stars, to heal the eyes hurt by the light flung by day's brandished scimitars. The parted crimson of her lips, like sunset clouds that slowly die when twilight, with cool finger-tips, unbraids her tresses in the sky. The melody of waterfalls is in the music of her tongue, low chanted in dim forest halls, ere dawn's loud bugle call has rung, and as a bird with hovering wings halts o'er her young one in the nest, then droops to still his flutterings, she takes me to her fragrant breast. O star and bird at once thou art, and night, with purple-petalled charm, shining and singing to my heart, and soothing with a dewy calm. Let death assume this lovely guise, so darkly beautiful and sweet, and, gazing with those starry eyes, lead far away my weary feet. And that strange sense of valleys fair, with birds and rivers making song, to lull the blossoms gleaming there, be with me as I pass along. Ah, lovely sisters, night and death, and lovelier woman, wondrous 3, givers of life, my spirit saith, unfolders of the mystery. Ah, only love could teach me this, in memoried springtime long since flown. Red lips that trembled, to my kiss that sighed farewell and left me lone. O joy and sorrow intertwined, a kiss, a sigh, and blinding tears, yet ever after in the wind the bird-like music of the spheres. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by King Charles II. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Song by King Charles II. On the Duchess of Portsmouth leaving England. For the Mirror. Bright was the morning, cool the air, serene was all the skies, when on the waves I left my dear, the centre of my joys. Heaven and nature smiling were, and nothing sad but I. Each rosy field their odour spread, all fragrant was the shore. Each river god rose from his bed, and sighing owned her power. Curling the waves they decked their heads, as proud of what they bore. Glide on, ye waves, bear these lines, and tell her my distress. Bear all these sighs, ye gentle winds, and waft them to her breast. Tell her, if ever she prove unkind, I never shall have rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song of Margaret by Jean Ingelow. Read for LibriVox.org by Ian King. Aye, I saw her. We have met. Married eyes, how sweet they be. Are you happier, Margaret, than you might have been with me? Silence. Make no more ado. Did she think I should forget? Matters nothing, though I knew. Margaret, Margaret. Once those eyes, full sweet, full shy, told a certain thing to mine. What they told me, I put by. Oh, so careless of the sign. Such an easy thing to take, and I did not want it then. Fool. I wish my heart would break. Scorn is hard on hearts of men. Scorn of self is bitter work. Each of us has felt it now. Bluest skies she counted murk, self-betrayed of eyes and brow. As for me, I went my way, and a better man drew nigh, fain to earn, with long essay, what the winner's hand threw by. Matters not in deserts old, what was born and waxed and yearned. Year to year its meaning told. I am come, its deeps are learned. Come, but there is naught to say. Married eyes with mine have met. Silence. Oh, I had my day. Margaret, Margaret. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet to Evening by Mary Robinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Red Panda. Sweet balmy hour, dear to the pensive mind, oft have I watched thy dark and weeping shade, oft have I hailed thee in the dewy glade, and dropped a tear of sympathy refined. When humming bees, hid in their golden bowers, sip the pure nectar of May's blushing rose, or faint with noonday toils, their limbs repose in baths of essence stolen from sunny flowers. Oft do I seek thy shade, dear withering tree, sad emblem of my own disastrous state, doomed in the spring of life, alas, like thee, to fade and droop beneath the frowns of fate. Like thee, May heaven to me the meed bestow, to shelter sorrow's tear, and soothe the child of woe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Spring by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Ian King. Soft littered is the New Year's lambing fold, and in the hollowed haystack at its side the shepherd lies a night now, wakeful-eyed at the ewes' travailing call through the dark cold. The young rooks cheep mid the thick caw of the old, and near unpeopled streamsides on the ground by her spring cry the moorhen's nest is found, where the drained floodlands flaunt their marigold. Chill are the gusts to which the pastures cower, and chill the current where the young reeds stand, as green and close as the young wheat on land. Yet hear the cuckoo and cuckoo flower plight to the heart spring's perfect imminent hour, whose breath shall soothe you like your dear one's hand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Steamboats, Viaducts, and Railways by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org by Red Panda. Motions and means on land and sea at war, with old poetic feeling, not for this shall ye by poets even be judged amiss, nor shall your presence, howsoe'er it mar, the loveliness of nature prove a bar to the mind's gaining that prophetic sense of future change, that point of vision whence may be discovered what in soul ye are. In spite of all that beauty may disown in your harsh features, nature doth embrace her lawful offspring in man's art, and time, pleased with your triumphs o'er his brother's space, accepts from your bold hands the proffered crown of hope, and smiles on you with cheer sublime. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sudden Light by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Ian King. I have been here before, but when or how I cannot tell. I know the grass beyond the door, the sweet keen smell, the sighing sound, the lights around the shore. You have been mine before. How long ago I may not know, but just when at the swallow's soar your neck turned so, some veil did fall, I knew it all of yore. Then, now, perchance again, O round mine eyes your tresses shake. Shall we not lie as we have lain thus for love's sake, and sleep and wake, yet never break the chain? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Thunderstorm by Felicia Dorothea Hemans. Read for LibriVox.org by Red Panda. Deep fiery clouds o'ercast the sky, dead stillness reigns in air, there is not e'en a breeze on high, the gossamer to bear. The woods are hushed, the waves at rest, the lake is dark and still, reflecting on its shadowy breast each form of rock and hill. The lime-leaf waves not in the grove, nor rose-tree in the bower, the birds have ceased their songs of love, awed by the threatening hour. 'Tis noon, yet nature's calm profound seems as a midnight deep. But hark, what peal of awful sound breaks on creation's sleep? The thunder bursts, its rolling might seems the firm hills to shake, and in terrific splendor bright the gathered lightnings break. Yet fear not, shrink not thou, my child, though by the bolt's descent where the tall cliffs in ruins piled, and the wide forests rent. Doth not thy God behold thee still, with all-surveying eye? Doth not his power all nature fill around beneath on high? No, hast thou eagle pinions free, to track the realms of air? Thou couldst not reach a spot where he would not be with thee there. In the wide city's peopled towers, on the vast ocean's plains, midst the deep woodland's loneliest bowers, alike the Almighty reigns. Then fear not, though the angry sky 1,000 darts should cast. Why should we tremble e'en to die, and be with him at last? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To a Woman by George Cabot Lodge. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. How shall it seem to thee when thou art old? When this, the dust in which I wrote my name, and I, in memory's twilight lost and cold, have grown too unremembered to defame. Perchance that when thine eyes are dull with drouth, thy beauty haggard, thou shalt think on me, and cry, his name is ashes in the mouth, his name I speak in dying misery. Perchance thy rage shall sob its full despair, he was more masterful than time, and fell, weak in the world, to lie despised and bare. In death a cord, in life a broken bell. Or shall thy pride be mightier, and say, he fought and failed, and peace? The scorn was best. With his forgotten deeds the years are gray, and now his brow I crowned is fallen to rest. My heart instructs me, it shall seem to thee, in no such wise. Thy lips may praise or blame, and leave the heart its loving. Thou to me, thy cheek that withers, my forgotten name. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To Milton by Oscar Wilde. Read for LibriVox.org by KyoBlanchett. Milton, I think thy spirit hath passed away from these white cliffs and high embattled towers. This gorgeous fiery-colored world of ours seems fallen into ashes, dull and grey, and the age changed unto a mimic play, wherein we waste our else too crowded hours, for all our pomp and pageantry and powers. We are but fit to delve the common clay, seeing this little isle on which we stand, this England, this sea lion of the sea, by ignorant demagogues is held in fee. Who love her not, dear God, is this the land which bare a triple empire in her hand, when Cromwell spake the word democracy? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Tonight from the Same by Charlotte Smith. Read for LibriVox.org by KyoBlanchett. I love thee, mournful, sober-suited night, when the faint moon, yet lingering in her wane, and veiled in clouds with pale uncertain light, hangs over the waters of the restless main. In deep depression sunk, the enfeebled mind will to the deaf cold elements complain, and tell the embosomed grief, however vain, to sullen surges and the viewless wind. Though no repose on thy dark breast I find, I still enjoy thee, cheerless as thou art. For in thy quiet gloom the exhausted heart is calm, though wretched, hopeless, yet resigned, while to the winds and waves its sorrows given may reach, though lost on earth, the ear of heaven. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Vagabond Song by Bliss Carman. Read for LibriVox.org by Kirby Wheatland. There is something in the autumn that is native to my blood. Touch of manner, hint of mood, and my heart is like a rhyme, with the yellow and the purple and the crimson keeping time. The scarlet of the maples can shake me like a cry of bugles going by, and my lonely spirit thrills to see the frosty asters like a smoke upon the hills. There is something in October sets the gypsy blood astir. We must rise and follow her, when from every hill of flame she calls and calls each vagabond by name. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.